Hi, everybody. This is my book review. The book that I chose to do this review on was Flip Your Classroom, Reach Every Student in Every Class Every Day. It was written by Jonathan Bergman and Aaron Sims. The book literally started because both of these people were observing students in their classrooms and realized that students needed help in class and not necessarily at home, because when they go home, the students don't have the teachers to help them with the assignments. So they started the idea of the flipped classroom by then lecturing at home and making their students watch the videos and lectures in the comfort of their home, and then doing the assignments and tests and labs and all of that in their classrooms so that the teacher was there to help them through the assignments. So the main theme of this book was to understand, well, as a reader, it was to understand what a flipped classroom is and how and why it works in a learning and a teaching environment. So the authors, we're going to start with Jonathan Bergman. He believed that educators should ask this specific question: what is best for my students in my classroom? He was a science high school teacher for 25 years, and he tried to teach that question in his classroom. In 2002, he received the Presidential Award for Excellence for Math and Science. And then the second author, Aaron Sams, he's been an educator since 2000. He received the Presidential Award for Excellence in Math and Science Teaching in 2009. He co-chaired the committee to revise the Colorado Science Academic Standards, and he is currently a classroom science teacher in Woodland Park, Colorado. So this page right here shows the title of the book. So the review of this book is from, after reading it, it's literally personal experiences from the authors. So the authors give more ground to stand on because they're giving them personal examples and ways to actually implement these things in your classroom. They also were really good at giving examples and putting in things that their students had said. So for one of the if you go through the book, they even give you comparisons of a traditional classroom and a flipped classroom, and the things that you can do while you're trying to flip your classroom. And they even show you the amount of time that you actually get to spend on guided and independent practice compared in a flipped classroom compared to a traditional classroom. So I felt that it was really important that they were giving you real life examples and actually giving you the help that you need to flip your classroom. And another thing that they did was they gave you step by step and how flipping your classroom can actually help your students. There was literally a chapter about why you should flip your classroom, and it's just it's one of the things says flipping speaks the language of today's students, or flipping helps busy students. So with that one, we have a lot of kids that in high school that play sports or have to go off to different things with teams and clubs and stuff like that, and they miss certain classes. So if you flip your classroom, you have these videos online that these students can now watch on their own time, and then they don't miss very much or they don't miss the lectures or the information that you're giving them because it's all online. They're just missing the class time with that, with working on the actual things, but they can make those up. They even put in an example, under flipping allows students to pause and rewind their teacher. So some kids, when they're lecturing in class, don't always follow along with the teacher. And if they have the luxury of doing that in their own home, they can pause videos as frequently or not pause them at all if they don't need to, but it gives them a chance to take notes, write things down, pause the video, rewind, go back, and just actually listen to the lecture and truly understand what it's saying. The book was very informative. That, like I said, there are many examples and scenarios that the authors used in order to show you effective ways to flip your classroom. So I already talked about that. There was clarity. There were sectioned off parts of every chapter to explain the aspects of the chapter. So as you go through the chapter, like I was saying, they give you they section it off so that you kind of get a better understanding. So of the chapter that I just explained, they had so many examples of why it was important. And if you go through the other chapters of the book as well, they do the same thing. Like they separate the book so that it's separated by chapter, and each chapter has like a main idea. So like chapter 1 was about the authors and like why they decided to create it. Chapter 2 is like it gives you a better understanding of the flipped classroom. Chapter 3 was why you should flip your classroom. 4 was how to implement the classroom. 5 was um, how to master your flipped classroom. It just goes on. So by each chapter, you have different components and different like examples and ideas of why this is so important and how to implement it into your classroom. Um, After reading the book, I felt like I knew like how to actually flip a classroom and why it was successful and how to back up the arguments of why like flipped classrooms can be very beneficial. Um, the the book was written really for educators, for like fifth graders to throughout the high school level. It's kind of hard to implement these techniques into the lower grades, which is completely understandable. I mean, you don't really lecture that much in like a kindergarten or a first grade classroom. So it was really cool that they gave you like really awesome ways to implement these techniques into the older classrooms, like the older aged kids, because they're more tech savvy. They want the technology in their classrooms as well. So, like I stated before, the book was written on personal experience. Every single thing that they wrote in this classroom, they did themselves. Or, I'm sorry, in this book, they wrote themselves. They tried to figure out what worked, what didn't, what was best, what was worst. They truly showed you how this technique works. Um, these two teachers saw the struggles in their classrooms and they wanted to find a better way to implement the standards and give students a better chance of understanding the content, which goes along with the students that have to leave for sports or clubs and things like that, where they do miss important class time. But by posting these videos and making it so that you're lecturing at your home, it makes it easier for students to catch up for things that they've missed. It also gives the reader an understanding of why flipping your classroom is beneficial to the students. It gives you examples of how to flip your classroom, and it explains the flipped mastery classroom, and it's also gives you like how to implement the flipped mastery classroom as well. So overall, I felt like the book was very informative, and it gives you great examples of how to teach this and how to implement these things into your classroom. And after reading it, I legit felt like I could um, tell someone or teach someone about a flipped classroom or even implement it into my own classroom techniques.